St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner, and while everyone loves to be Irish for a day, those with Irish, Scottish, and other Northern European backgrounds could be suffering from a severe genetic disorder and don't even know it. It's called hemochromatosis, and joining me now on the line is Ian Hilley. He is the president of the Canadian Hemochromatosis Society. Ian, first of all, start off by telling our listeners, what is hemochromatosis?
Hemochromatosis is a common genetic disorder which leads to iron overload. So you accumulate iron and get too much iron from the diet that you have. So iron is accumulated from your dietary sources, meat, vegetables, etc., and you can't get rid of it. So it's stored away in parts of the body which weren't intended for iron storage, like the liver, like the joints, like the pancreas, like the heart, the brain, and some of the hormonal glands, the endocrine glands.
And what does it do to your body?
Effectively, it poisons your body. Too much iron, which is our website, too much iron really leads to things like arthritis, diabetes, first of all, an enlarged liver, second of all, liver diseases like liver cirrhosis, and then worse yet, liver cancer. One of the classic symptoms is bronzing of the skin, so it looks like you're jaundiced. So that's a reflection of the liver being poisoned. But generally, the symptoms of the disorder are non-specific, so it's very difficult to diagnose unless somebody has gone through a fairly methodical approach, such as taking a family history, and if you have a history of Northern European roots, doing a simple blood test when you go for your annual checkup, which is called a ferritin test, which isn't the same as the hemoglobin test that is on the regular checklist for physicians in Ontario. And then ultimately an unequivocal genetic test if it seems like you might have hemochromatosis.
Is this mainly a hereditary disease?
It is a hereditary condition, yes. Okay. It's probably one of the most common genetic disorders in Canada, but one of the least well known. It affects about 1 in 300 Canadians, mostly in people of European, or we call it Celtic descent, English, Irish, Scottish, French, German, those kinds of the founding fathers of Canada. And so we estimate there's about 125,000 people with hereditary hemochromatosis, or who are at risk from hereditary hemochromatosis. Some of them, many of them, don't even know that they're at risk, and that's really the big problem.
Why is it so prevalent amongst people of Northern European descent, Irish, Scottish? Why is it so prevalent amongst these people?
There's a thought that it goes back to genetic modification to adapt and survive many, many thousands of years ago, maybe millions of years ago. But there's a sort of a sense that the Vikings were in some ways responsible for hemochromatosis. But what is interesting is as you come west to North America, and because people have migrated west from Europe and as far east as the Russian steppes or the Ukraine, there's been some evidence found that there are body parts of people that got as far as Ireland, for example. Just before Christmas, there was some research done or reported from the University of Ulster, which detected the genetic makeup of people that would have come from the Russian steppes all the way to Ireland, and they had the gene for hemochromatosis. So it's very fascinating. What's interesting is people who come from Ireland have the most common frequency of hemochromatosis. So in Canada, we think it's about 1 in 300. In Ireland, it's probably 1 in 83. So intensely more frequent in Ireland. So as we think about St. Patrick's Day and celebrating in York Region and having a pint of the dark stuff, it would be good to take a time out and think about our roots and think about, not in a morose or morbid way, but the possibility that I've been blessed with a genetic disorder that I can eminently do something about if I know about it.
And what is the treatment for hemochromatosis?
Treatment's really simple. The treatment is giving blood. So when you give blood to Canadian Blood Services, which is an option for some people, or you find a hematologist or a physician to go see, and there's clinics where you can give blood in the hospitals in York Region, South Lake, for example, Mackenzie Health. You give blood. You need to regenerate red blood cells. Hemoglobin is made. It uses iron from your body, and so the stored iron gets used and gets transferred to make new red blood cells. So when you give a pint, it's replaced, so you actually whittle down the stored iron. When you're first diagnosed, you can be giving blood, and the technical term is phlebotomies. A lot of people call it bleeding, and some physicians refer to it as the bleeders when you're at the clinic. But your body regenerates the blood, and your iron comes down. You may have to do that very frequently when you're being first treated, because you've got to come down from very high levels to back to a normal healthy level of iron. A normal healthy level of iron is somewhere in the region of 50 nanograms per mil. I know that sounds awfully technical, but people. I was diagnosed when my blood levels were just under 1,000, which is very modest. There are people that I know, and you're going to speak to some other people who, their blood levels were 7,000.
Wow.
Right. So they weren't well when they were diagnosed, and they had been on an odyssey or a quest to find out what was wrong with them.
What would you want to tell people out there who may think that they might have this disorder, or that they might be at least a part of the heritage line that may have this?
I want to make sure that people become as lucky as I am. I am lucky to have found out that I had hemochromatosis. I found out when I was 50. It's equally frequent in men and women because it's a genetic roll of the dice. It's a gift from your parents. If your parents if their family tree was Northern European, Irish, Scottish in particular, but the entire north of Europe, then it may be that if you have symptoms of chronic fatigue, loss of body hair, loss of libido, abdominal discomfort, thyroid issues, sudden weight loss, elevated liver enzymes, menstrual changes that you can't put a reason for, arthritic pain, particularly in the ankles and in the knees and in the knuckles, then this might be something that you would speak to your doctor about.
That was Ian Hilley, president of the Canadian Hemochromatosis Society.